I'm going to take these vintage doilies, a box top from Dollar Tree, and a summer tag sign from Dollar Tree. That's how we're going to start. I'm going to carefully pull those apart. I think they're kind of fragile. I'm going to cut off the tag and decide where we want to place it. So I've decided to slide that box top up to be closer to the top. And I'm going to trim this doily. And there we go. And then for the bottom, I'm going to use this one. Good old trusty glue stick from Dollar Tree. I'm going to gently add that down. I'm not going to be bearing down on this with the edge of that ruler because I don't want to tear those little delicate pieces. So I'm just kind of pressing and pressing with my hands to stick that down on there. I think that these doilies give it a pretty snowflake look. And I haven't seen this done yet, so I thought this would be something fun to do. We're going to take the edges off of the box, and then you have pieces left for crafting with later, or you can do like I did and use a couple of those pieces to trim this out once you get it on the tag. Okay, so to hold this down, I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue. This will easily pop off if I want to change this out at some point because this is it's not Gorilla Glue, in other words, so it should come off pretty easy. So now I'm trying to decide where I want to put my border. A little hot glue there and just press that in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top. I'm going to take my sanding block from Dollar Tree. They give the best edging, really give a nice look. And the glue stick has worked well to keep it in its place. So when you go over the green there on the edge and on the edge of the box with that sander, it gives it kind of a white, aged look, which I really like. And I think it's great for a rustic or farmhouse look, giving it a little history, if you will. And there we go. So I wanted to add a little extra trim here, and I'm taking a little of this jute cord, cutting a piece long enough that we can wrap to the back so we don't have to put any glue on the front. So if you hold it tightly in place, then it'll be in the same spot when you flip it over, just using little extra corners of those box top sides as little band-aids to hold down my cord there. There you go. This bow came off of another project, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I made this so you can make one similar to it for yours. Just use some wired ribbon, and you're going to need some jingle bells, whatever color and style you like. But since it's already made, I'm just going to use it. Now I'll show you how to make the bow. You're going to take a length of wired ribbon, and this is about I'd say about 8 inches. You're going to fold it over into a loop or a circle and glue those ends together. Let it cool for a second, cut another piece, lay it on top, squish them together, and then take a piece of cord, ribbon, twist tie, pipe cleaner, whatever you got, and put a knot in it. You can trim that off. Dovetail the ends of the bow. And then you're going to take a little bit of hot glue and add some in the middle. That's all you have to do. So I'm going to take this little stick or this little dowel here that I had in my craft stash. I'm going to gently poke a hole back through the doily so that I can make a hanger. I'm going to use a little hot glue on the end of this cord and twist it. That'll give it a nice point that won't fray so that I can easily thread it back through the original holes that the original hanger came through. And you certainly use the original cord if you want to and put it right back on. I want my knots to be in the front, so I'm just going to make a little loose knot on each side. When you slide them back through, you can see the knot on the front. And trim off your little pieces that remain. And we're going to put the bow down now. So you want to get that centered and just put that bow up there to complete your look. So this is look number 1. This is our red truck Christmas tag. Using the same package of doilies, we're going to get 2 of those out. And they're really stuck together, so be sure that you just have one layer or you're going to have issues when you try to glue it. I want to put these off center. And I'm going to add a metal snowflake and a Jingle All the Way metal piece that came off of another sign from Dollar Tree. I'm going to take dark steel and satin nickel, and I'm going to take those outside and give each of those metal pieces a quick spray with the dark steel, and then let it dry, go back outside and spray paint a little bit of the nickel on top, just a light dusting of it. Then I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to put this down while my metal pieces are drying. Again, patting down, pressing down to make sure that this glue is grabbing onto this paper. Be careful not to cover the entire board. Just do as much as you can and then go back along the edges where you need it. Pressing down firmly so that it gets all the little edges. You don't want anything peeling up, because if it starts to peel, it could catch on something and just ruin your project. So be sure that you're really getting that down. Take your scissors and trim off. You can leave a little on the edge. No need to be exact on this, because we're going to sand this down just like we did on the other one. Sanding block. Again, this is in a fast speed, but you are going to be careful with this so that you don't tear any pieces or snag any pieces and destroy your project. See, it just frays right off of there. Careful around the corners here. I had to slow it down for you to show you what it looks like, how I really do it. You got to be kind of careful with this. And it looks like it was painted on, you know, from a distance. Obviously, if you're up close, you can see that it's not, that it's an applique, but it's pretty. And to me, it does look like there's snowflakes on there. So it's all dry. First attempt I made was with the glue from Dollar Tree, which was a no-go, so I went back with my Gorilla Glue. Be careful with this. Don't put so much glue like I did. I wanted to make sure that it stuck down, but I went a little bit overboard in some areas, which caused a little bit of bleed through. It is something that I fix, and you'll see that once this is dry in a few minutes. But yeah, it was kind of yucky. And to think I could have avoided it, I'm hoping that you can avoid it now. Carefully place it where you want it, because you don't want to slide it at all or move it once you put it down, because it'll leave a mess. I just took a large plastic bag and a weight and covered this up. Once it is dry, this is how it looks. The Gorilla Glue did a fantastic job, but you can see where I have some residue here. I'm going to take a fingernail filer or an emery board and just file on that a little bit, and that's going to soften that look. You can definitely still tell, but it's not as bad. Gotta be super careful around that doily. Okay, same process as before. We're going to glue the end of our piece of twine, make a knot on the front, pull it through, and trim it up on both sides. Which one of these is your favorite? I'm going to make a little bow to go on the top. These are 3 12-inch pieces of jute cord. I'm just going to make a little shoestring bow here. And then I'm going to decide where I want to put it. And it's going to be in the right corner. A little hot glue keeps it in place. We're going to start off with 2 of these Dollar Tree ornaments. Cute as they are, but we're going to fix them up a little bit. You can use scrap paper, you can use decorative paper, you can use any types of bells and tiny ornaments that you have. You can use twine, ribbon. I'm going to use wrapping paper that I already have to cover these. We're going to start by just untying this ribbon. We can put it aside and use it again on something else. Just grab some sanding paper. Instead of my block, which is a finder grit, I've decided to use this little bit rougher sandpaper. Wipe off all the residue. Now to decide what we want to do with our 2 ornaments, how we want to make them. We'll go start with this one. And we're going to cover it with this wrapping paper. I think this wrapping paper came from Dollar Tree. Now that we have a smooth surface on our tag, we're going to take a glue stick. You don't have to use name brand, it's just what I had nearby. You can use the Jot or any type of, even a cheap glue stick. The glue stick for me gives a nice clean finish. It doesn't seep through, and drying time is relatively fast. I can still work with it and do what I need to do without having to wait. So it's just a smooth and neat appearance. You'll see that in just a minute. You're going to press that down, take my wooden ruler and just press down, and it's almost like you're ironing out the paper. You want to get it nice and flat, no bubbles underneath. Then take the sanding block and begin to sand away and downward at an angle. That's going to shear the edges of that paper off and give you a beautiful, smooth, clean finish. Perfect. Looks like it came right from the factory like that, doesn't it? Love it. Okay, so for the next one, here is some wrapping paper. Because this is a light paper that you can see through, I don't want it to darken up by putting it on that brown. Plus you would see the little white residue that's left. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint this entire thing white. And this will make the wrapping paper look more opaque and make our designs on there really pop. So consider painting first. You don't have to use chalk paint, that's just what I'm using, but consider painting first if you're going to use a thin paper or something with a white background. It's really going to make the details on your paper pop. Okay, so while that's drying, we're going to go back to this tag with the snowflakes on it and think about how we want to embellish it. Now I'm showing you all of this because I kind of want you to see my thought process and some options that you can use yourself. Alright, so this is something that I took off another ornament last year and I saved it. This came from Dollar Tree. It's frosted, so I think it looks good with the snowflakes. It looks good with the winter theme. And this ribbon I think is just gorgeous. I think this ribbon came from Walmart. I'm going to make a little shoelace bow here. Kind of think about how I want to place that. And you can do the same. Put it in the center, put it on the bottom, off to the side, whichever you choose. These are some frosted mini pine cones that came from Dollar Tree. I want to pick some of the tiny ones out because I don't want to overwhelmed the top of that with huge pine cones. I want many because I want it to look nice. I guess what I'm looking for is proportion. So be sure that you poke the hole out where the tag is, where the tag hanger goes. Okay, so I'm just using some hot glue to tack that down. I'm going to put some little, I think this is table scatter, and I'm not sure where it came from. I've had it for years. And then I'm going to start placing down my mini pine cones, just a little at a time. I kind of go by what feels right when I look at it, if that makes sense. And since I'm using it in my home, that's the important thing. Do what feels right to you, what feels good for you, and don't worry about what it might look like to someone else. Unless you're selling them, you know, do what makes you happy. Trimming up this ribbon, just putting a little slant on the edges, and I'm getting the spider webs off from the glue. Then I thought this ornament would be so pretty here. It's like a ceramic, but it's rough. It's not glazed, in other words. So there's two sides. One has a little bit of pencil mark on it, or scuff marks. So I'm just going to use that side to place the glue down. I'm using hot glue because the surface is porous and rough on the house, so I think it'll fit just fine with the Gorilla Hot Glue. Now I'm taking another one of these same pieces that came off of a different ornament, and I'm just going to cut it down, and these make cute little frosted trees, right? Like little snowy trees. Now it looks like it's nestled in the woods. Then I'm going to trim it out with a little bit of the ribbon that we used on top. Flip that over, tack it down with a little glue on the back, just feed it through that hole, and here is a simple knot that you can use so that you can hang it. Just put my 2 fingers in the loop, grabbing the ends, pulling it and sliding the knot down. There you go. I love it. Okay, so our paint has dried, and we're going to use the glue stick again. We're going to cover the surface of this quite well. Then I'm going to lay this down on top, press it just a little, and then I'm going to grab my ruler and then press it out just like we did the other one. Now we'll sand it. There you go. Beautiful little tag. Now, again, here are some ideas that you could use for your second tag. Those are both ornaments that I already had. And I decided to use some scrap pieces that I had. Both of these picks came from the Dollar Tree. And these cute little gloves, look at that. They have fur on the top. These originally came from Target. I'm just going to decide where I want to put them and then slide the knot down on the strings and just simply tape them on the back. Now, if you were going to give this as a gift, of course you would want to trim that down and then put some brown packing paper or something like that on the back to make it neater. Nobody's going to see mine. Then I'm going to glue the second glove a little on top of the other and then down on the tag. We can put our greenery down. This is why we don't throw scraps away. We keep them because you can always use them for little pieces like this, little projects. Now I want this to lay flat, so I'm trimming off one side. Otherwise, when you put glue on it, it's not going to lay flat. It's going to stick up and you're not going to get a good grip on your surface. I don't want it to fall apart, so I'm going to trim it down, then add my glue. You still have the dimension on the other side, so you're not losing anything by doing that. These little white pieces to me look like snow. Just to add a little red up there. I'm going to use my chalk pen or chalk marker and just add a little bit of snow, just a little dusting of snow to the leaves and onto my berries.
You don't have to do this though. And if you have any pins from things that you've copied that we've done here, be sure that you send me your link so I can check it out. I also have my email in the description box if you would like to contact me, or if you have any questions that you don't want to leave in the comments.
To start off with this pack that you see me recently haul. This is a 2-pack of ornaments that are coated and caked with glitter and some type of adhesive. They look like they've been dipped, battered, and fried. Hopefully it will be helpful to you. I'm going to take some very warm water and a little bit of dish soap. Make some sudsy water and then start soaking these. I soaked them for about an hour probably. And I'm just using a little wooden dowel to kind of agitate the water just a little bit from time to time, just in case the movement might, make some of that stuff fall off. But you can see here that you can scrape off that caked on mess. It's pretty thick. I don't know how many coats they put on there or what type of adhesive they use, but man, that stuff is thick. So I'm just taking one of these little scouring pads that I got at Dollar Tree just to see if it would help remove it, and that was a fail. Yeah, that's not going to work, so we're going to trash that. Give it a little more soak time. So now I'm just going to use my fingernail and start scraping this stuff away. You can see it comes off in chunks down there where the red areas are. But I wanted to try it just to see if it could be done, to see if it would work. And after I have picked and picked and picked, and I did that with my fingers, and I used a little bit of a little stick to kind of get in the cracks around the letters. Then you come up with this clear plastic, and you can see right away they're really nice. I like the font, and then there I have my tweezers getting out what remains. I'm going to use black spray paint on one of these. In a minute I'll show you the other paint for the other one. I'm just using my foam sanding block. There's some little nubs on here that you can't see when it's covered in glitter and paint. They're just little plastic little parts that kind of stick up a little bit, so I'm just trying to file those down so they're not so noticeable. And that's what you see me doing there, filling it with my finger to see. And then here's the other one. So we're using dark steel on one and black on the other one. And I sprayed one good coat and let them dry in the sun. And this is how they look. So now I want to adorn them a little bit. Embellish them, if you will. And I'm just taking some ribbons. Now those particular ribbons came from Dollar Tree. This one also came from Dollar Tree. And they're not in the seasonal section. They're just over where you can get the regular ribbon. This one came from Goodwill. This one is thrifted. So what you want to do is just pick, you're going to work with one ornament at a time and see what colors that you like that coordinates for you. This is Dollar General ribbon. It's wired. And then you're going to start piling your pieces together. This is a very easy bow to make. Now, on this one, I'm going to just kind of use a pattern here of X's with the same color ribbons, one on top of the other. You don't have to do it this way. I just usually do it this way, but in a minute you'll see me do it a little bit differently. So there's your stack. And I'm just going to show you how you can use a twist tie that came from something else. And this is a plastic twist tie that I just had in my hand. And it came from probably something from Dollar Tree. holding an ornament or something to a package. But it's wired, so you could use that if you don't have floor wire or any chenille stems, or you run out, or you just don't want to leave the house right now. You can just use that. Now I'm going to dovetail the ends of the bigger ribbons. If at first you don't succeed, try again. You want those to be crispy ends. You don't want little bumps and square looking whatever, because you want this to look high-end, right? So this is what we're going to do to give it that look. But if you don't get it tight enough, you'll pull them right out. So just be sure you do that. There's already a hole on the top where the original hanger was, and I am just going to feed one end of that wire through there. And then twist the other one around it to secure it, and then I'm going to make a little hanger on the top from that wire. This, even with the bulk of this bow, barely weighs anything, so I think it will hang from the tree just fine. If not, go ahead and add a little hook to hang it from your tree. This would be really pretty on a package too, if you wanted to use it as a package topper or a tag, something like that for Christmas. See what an easy and cute little bow that is? Really cute. And to keep it from flipping around, you know, that's why we put the hot glue on there. I want to embellish it a little further, and I thought these little white pom-poms would be great because they look like snowballs, and we have Frosty. We have Frosty on there. Plus we have that black and white polka dot ribbon. I think it coordinates nicely. What do you think? That's the first one. So you can still see a little bit of those little bumps where they were, but they're flat now, but you can still see them a little. I'm not bothered by that though. If you are, this might not be the ornament for you. Alright, so we're going to give this one a more silvery or frosty theme. Not Frosty the Snowman, just frosty cold outside. And I'm going to dovetail the ends. And then on this one, I'm just going to start cutting ribbon that I think would coordinate nicely, and then we're just going to throw those down there randomly, not in a particular pattern. And so this is me trying not to make a pattern. Yeah. See, my brain does not work like that. But I thought I'd show it to you because it really doesn't matter, and the end results are still going to be pretty. So on this one, I'm going to use a piece of thin ribbon to show you that you can use that. So there's another option to hold your things together. You don't have to feel like you need to rush out and you can't finish a project because you run out of wire or something like that. You can always find something that'll work. So there you go. One knot in the middle, and then we're going to double knot it. And then pull your bow to the sides and out so you can get it nice and fluffed. And look at that, isn't that pretty? It's slightly sparkly and it looks wintry and snowy, I think. This is a real simple tie for your ornament. It's just a simple little tie, simple knot there, one knot, and then loop it back around so that the smooth end's on top. And it looks very finished once you've hot glued your ornament down. You could also feed those pieces of that thread or that thin ribbon through that hole if you want to, but I ain't got time for that. That's a lot of work with a little spot to have to stick it through. So it's easier just to hot glue that one. So that's an option for you also. Like I said before, they don't weigh a lot, and it makes it easier to have, more options. It's not gonna pull down or pull away. So there you go. And that's also the time to go ahead and trim down any ribbons that maybe slipped around while you were tying the knot and they weren't in the right place. I thought these snowy pine cones, which I got in a little bag at Dollar Tree, would be perfect to go on this one. And I think I was right. What do you think? Looks good. So you saw the before, and here is your after. Two different options. What do you think? I think these turned out beautiful. We're going to start off with a handful of supplies that I thought I might need. So this came from Dollar Tree. It is some decorative cording or ribbon. Got some plastic candy cane ornaments, some ribbon. This one is wired, but you can certainly use non-wired because that's what I ended up using. It's a candy cane bag from Dollar Tree. Did I say candy cane? Candy cane bag from Dollar Tree. And this was with their Christmas section. And this was a canvas painting that I got at the thrift store, and I peeled off the canvas part, and I will in a moment take my pliers and get the rest of it off. I'm going to use a piece of foam board also. This is going to be the backing for our bag to give it some sturdiness. So I'm just using a little utility knife. I've measured it against my frame, and I'm cutting off the back. We're not ready to glue quite yet because we've got to do some work on the bag. Take the hanger out by pressing the plastic back through that hole on each side, and you're going to use that handle as a hanger on the back, so just set it aside. I've chosen the side of the bag that does not have the fold in it, so I have a nice flat surface to work with. Go ahead and cut along the trim of that, or the outside of that, so you get a nice big flat picture. Using this glue stick, I'm going to cover the back nice and evenly. The most important, I feel like, would be the outsides and the edges so that it doesn't peel up. And you can see on the corner, the left bottom, where I made a little boo-boo when I was cutting, but that's okay. That happens when you're crafting. We're not going to throw the entire thing away just because there's one little rough spot. We can work with that. So I'm just pressing it down with my hands, and then I'm using my wooden ruler to make sure that it is pressed evenly down to the surface of that foam board. I've decided to use this trim to go around the edges to just kind of clean up where I've made my cut marks. This is a plasticky or coated type cord, so it will easily, the glue will kind of seep through the little openings in it. So be sure that you protect your fingers. Use your little fingertip protectors. Mine came from Dollar Tree. Or you can use a little spatula or a little stick or something like that. Then I just want you to see how you turn the corner there. This type of trim works really well for that. It'll lay nice and flat for you in the corners. Trim the entire thing out. Now, depending on the size of your frame, your canvas frame, you might not have to necessarily do the entire thing. I wanted to be sure that you didn't see that white board behind it when I put the frame back on it. So this is kind of my way of covering up my cut marks and making sure it's nice and neat when I put the frame back on. I'm just going to put that on first in a couple of spots around the edges, and then I'm going to use my glue gun, because a glue gun will give a quick seal, and then the fix-all will make it more permanent. So say once I put the frame down, you can't even see the trim on the sides. That is okay. Alright, so I'm going to use that bag hanger, put some glue down, put a little piece of scrap paper on top to make our hanger. Here's an option for you if you don't like the plain wood. You want to zhuzh it up a bit. You can use some ribbon and just turn the corners and glue it down so you have a frame on top of your frame with a color. Or you can use a little piece of decorative greenery and a bow. My little piece of greenery came off of a vintage bell, so this was on the top of it. But I thought it would look good since we have holly and the berries on the candy cane picture, so it makes it perfect. I'm going to show you two different bows. First one we're going to do is like I think they call it a shoelace bow. Very simple. This ribbon I have is probably 1.5 inches, maybe 1 inch, and it has no wire in it. It's a ribbon that I like the color of, I like the polka dots, but it's just not that easy for me to work with in layered or stacked bows, so I thought it would be good for these simple bows. I'm trying to use it for my Christmas decor. So there's the first bow. You can do it that way and trim it up, or protecting your fingers, take a length of ribbon, this was about 8 inches, double it on itself, make a loop, and then make a tail. I made this bow recently in another project. I think it was the candy cane. Yeah, I think it was the candy cane. And then we're going to just put that underneath, stack that on top. We're going to use a piece of green pipe cleaner just because the green coordinates, but you don't have to. You can use any color. You're going to cover it up with your greenery. You could also tie it with some jute, or you can use some floral wire here. Just hold that tightly and twist it so that it doesn't slip out, and that you can adjust your bow just a little bit. And trim off that piece in the back and decide where you want to put that, in the center or on the side. And I like the side, so I'm just going to put it right there. A little bit of hot glue, press the bow down so that it has some grip into that glue that'll hold it, and then I'm going to trim the back off of here, add a little glue to it, and put it right in the center. Rather than dovetailing, I want to show you something else you can do to trim up your bow, and that's just cutting it at an angle. So there's my little bow. Just to show you here, you can see where the trim is under there. You can always stain this wood. It's just raw wood. If you want to have a darker frame, you can certainly do that. You can paint it. You can use some chalk paint or acrylic paint to make it whatever color you would like for it to be. Couple of supplies you might need. You might need some paint, a floral pick, some wooden adhesive stickers, some ribbon, and then I have an emery board there. I've already painted the back of this sign, and you can see here that it was a summer sign from Dollar Tree. I used 2 coats of white chalk paint and let it dry well. So I've decided that this is how I want my stickers to be placed. And I'm going to start putting my ribbons on. Now you'll see in a minute I changed this up, but for now this is what I started with, and this is a Dollar Tree ribbon. It's sort of a burlap type of material. I wanted to use it for the cap for the jar. And it does fit there, so you can certainly use this if this is what you want to use. So after gluing it down, I've taken this red nail file. This way I wouldn't have to get out paint and the sticks. I just went ahead and clipped off a piece of this to use for the straw. It's a holiday DIY, so I thought the red would be a nice little added touch. I've just cut a piece down that will fit there over the white straw area, and then I am filing down with my sanding block just to make sure I get my edges even. It would drive me nuts if I hung it on the wall and did not have an even edge. I would likely take it down and start over. Do those kind of things bother you? I don't know why they bother me, but they do. So it fits perfectly, and I'm just going to take a little bit of hot glue and I put it on the larger surface so I wouldn't burn my fingertips, and press it in place. So there is the straw and the top of our mason jar. So next I'm going to make the band around the middle, and I've decided to use this thrifted burlap. This is about 4, maybe 5 inches if I had to guess. Pretty sure I did not measure it. And that's a little bit large, but rather than cutting it and having it fray, I have decided that I am going to fold it over and then glue it down. Rather like hemming it, but we're going to use hot glue. There are so many conversations that go on while I'm crafting downstairs. My husband actually came downstairs while I was doing this one, and we were chatting about a few things. But oftentimes you'll see my kids down here, their little hands on the edge of the table. We talk about whatever. I add a little glue here and there for my daughter while she's doing her craft projects because she likes to craft with me. This happened to be a day that they were at school, so I had the basement to myself. Okay, I just used the clamps here that came from Dollar Tree just to hold it in place until the glue dries. And we remove it. We have nice clean edges. And I'm going to put this piece of black and white checked, buffalo check, whatever you want to call it, right centered in here. I've already measured this against the jar, and it is enough to go around the sides so that it can be very neat on the front and be glued in the back. You want to have enough that you can glue it in the back so you don't have to put glue in the front and have some frayed edges showing. It gives it some dimension, and I like that. I'm going to pull it where there's no buckling in it, clamp it down, get my handy dandy scissors, trim it up, and then I'm going to put some glue in there to hold it in place. Like I always say, use your little finger protectors if you have them, because that glue will go right through burlap. So now I do not like that there is a little difference in the color of the ribbon on the top and the burlap that's on the bottom. I was going to see if maybe I wanted to use the checkered ribbon on the top, but I decided against it. So I want this to still be a burlap texture and color on the top. So I'm just going to fold this over and use this, and I think it looks so much better. Trimmed off the wire edge so that it wouldn't be too bulky on one side. Once that piece is dried, you can remove the clamps, and then we'll be using them again to do this. Some hot glue. Again, this is burlap. You will burn yourself if you don't use your finger protectors. Or you could also use a little rubber spatula, silicone spatula, something like that. And again on this side. The little edges that are squared over there, I want to give it a more finished look, so I'm just adding a little glue and then rolling that over with my fingers and clamping it down until it holds. And it gives it, I think, a nicer look. I don't want the bottom of my little straw to show, so I've just pulled that up. And I like this much better than the first option that I tried. Okay, so these actually had paper on the back, like a wax paper on the back, and they are a sticker underneath. So they have adhesive already on them. I don't know what happened to the clip of me actually peeling those off and putting them on, but that's what I did. I just centered them there and pressed them down. They have a really good hold. So I'm going to put a bow on the top, and I am using some of that same black and white checked ribbon to make a simple shoelace bow to put on the top. You can leave this way if you like it. You can use something different. You can use that burlap ribbon that we used before to put a bow on there if you want to. Or you can stop here and not use a bow at all. Make it yours, remember? We're making it our own on this channel. Always watch videos for inspiration, but never feel the need to do exactly what somebody else does. And if I ever come close that I am aware of to someone else's project, if there's a copy of something that I've not seen and I'm not aware of, then obviously I can't give credit to that person. But if I see something like on Pinterest, then I will give credit to where that idea originally came from. It's just the right thing to do, to give people credit for their creativity. So I needed a little bit of greenery on here naturally. I'm going to take the Dollar Tree pick and cut those leaves apart. And because the bow is bulky, I don't want a lot of bulk here, so I want this to be kind of flat. The idea of this project is to be simple but festive. So that's all glued into place. The back looks terrible. You can cover that. You could have always painted that back side, or you could cover it with some brown crafting paper if you would like. This is going to be flat on the wall, so no one will see the back of this. And at some point it may be repurposed to another project. Just taking a loop of chenille stem and making a hanger on the back, making sure that it doesn't go over the top of the edge of my sign. Little hot glue and then a piece of scrap cardboard paper to hold that in place. I want to fluff up that bow and make sure that it is looking nice and spry. And I decided that because those berries originally, the dark red berries, they didn't really show up against the dark green. So I decided to just take another pick that I got from Dollar Tree and just cut those berries off and put them there. And I think that is a much better option. It also matches better with the straw on the top of the mason jar. We're going to start off with this deer piece of Christmas decor. You can get it in silver or gold, but I've chosen gold. Just going to remove the tags and the hanger. And we're going to need 2 of these signs that you can get at Dollar Tree. They are wooden signs. I'm going to use my sanding block and just sand off where I have removed the stickers. And we're going to use the white sides on the outside, so the decorative part will be on the inside. So when I had a mind to do this, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to put my deer's little feet in there to hold them up. I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue just to keep them in place while I put down my other glue. So I'm using some wood glue here, and I'm just going to brush some of that on both pieces. And I'm going to leave some space in between to use the hot glue. I'm not mixing the two adhesives, I'm just putting them just randomly in little spots. Press these together. Now I've used a clamp here, and I've used a piece of paper underneath to keep my clamp from making marks on my boards. You're going to let that dry for 24 hours before you remove the clamps. To give it some extra security, I've used short staples and my staple gun and gone around the ends and the bottom. You can go back over this with some white chalk paint if you'd like, but I didn't. They can see there on the hoof it's chipped off a little bit. Not going to be a problem because I'm going to have an arrangement down there and it'll cover it up. This is rather, I want to say, floppy. It's not very sturdy. Maybe when you do this you could put two deer together, I'm not sure. But my way of remedying this and having it stand upright is to use these building blocks, or these tumbling tower blocks that came from Dollar Tree. Get them in a box in the children's section, in the toys section. I'm going to use that and a little bit of wood glue and a little bit of hot glue on the bottom to secure the legs of the deer so that the body will stand upright. This is going to be a one-sided sign, but you could certainly do both sides if you wanted to put it as a centerpiece or something like that. For me, this was good enough. It's going to be on a shelf most likely, so only one side will be shown. I'm going to sandwich the deer's legs between these and hold them so that the hot glue will sit up and give that wood glue some time to set up as well. I have some clamps that I got from the laundry section or the home section of Dollar Tree, and I use them for quite a bit of projects, and they work nicely for this. You can use whatever type of clamp that you want. You just want to be sure that you give that plenty of time, because it would be a shame to spend all that time getting the base and everything together and then snapping off one of those legs. That would be terrible. So I'm just going to slide that block down just a little bit so that I can hide it behind the leg a little better. So now he's standing upright a little bit better. I'm going to clamp that on and let that hot glue dry. Now it's time for the floral area. I'm going to use one side of it, and I'm going to use just this scrap of foam that came from, I think, one of my Amazon packages. It was thin enough to sit here, so I'm hot gluing it down. You can put another piece sandwiched on the other side if you'd like for a little extra support. And certainly if you're going to decorate both sides, you'll need a piece of foam on the back side as well. These are some pieces of greenery that I picked out of some clearance. They were like little pots last year at the at-home store. They were 39 cents, I think, so I got several of the little pots. Now removing my clamp so I have a little more room to put in my greenery. I'm just giving it a little run to see if this is how I want it to look, and I think this will work. So a little hot glue will keep this all pretty much in place, both in the foam and to the base there. And I do have some chalk paint on my hand from another project, so I was trying to get a lot done. We have a birthday, Halloween party coming up and family coming for the weekend, so I was trying to get a couple of these videos done, recorded all at once. Now you see I pulled the foam up. I do actually fix that, but I edited it out somehow. But I did glue it back down. You want to be sure that you have everything secure there so it's not falling apart. Just want to play around and see what kind of height you want, how wide you want it to be. I wanted this arrangement to be rather low and wide so that I can still see my deer. That's what the focus is going to be, is the deer. These frosted or snowy pics, they're so pretty, and I knew that I wanted to use them for something this year for Christmas. If you don't have something that you've thrifted or pieces that you've already had, you can certainly take pieces from the Dollar Tree. They have lots of gorgeous picks and you can use those. You can flock some old Christmas tree branches if you'd like and use an old wreath and just clip pieces off of that. However you want to do this. Just make it your own. Any color thing that you like. I prefer more rustic look, so that's why mine looks like this, but you do whatever you like. The arrangement cost me very little money. The longest time it took was just allowing that wood glue to dry. Otherwise, it was an easy project to do for the results that I think that we got. Remember what I've said in other videos, be sure that you take a good look from all angles and see if you have any spaces that need a little something else. And if you do, just go ahead and add that in. Here's an example of that. There's a little spot that needs a little something extra. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue and fill in that spot. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you like this project, that you'll try something with one of these deer decor pieces. I'm not the biggest fan of glitter, but it looked very nice with this piece, I think. An array of beautiful calendars with lots of farmhouse and rustic designs. In this calendar, we're going to use the December picture. This is Simply Blessed. And then I'm going to use this Dollar Tree sign. It's just something that was from Christmas. It's a square. So here are my ideas of some embellishments for this sign. I've got some picks, some pine cones and berries. You can use whatever you want, but I think these reflect what's in that picture, so I think they'll make a good fit. I'm going to remove this hanger from the sign. It's just jute and it's got a little plastic backing. You can just press that through. You can use it again if you want. Then I just started to peel this off because you can see where it was overlapped, but it did not come off very nicely. So yeah, I didn't fool with that for too much. I'm going to take off this little, I think it's a sun, and we'll save it for later. So you see it's almost a perfect fit. I'm going to go ahead and tear off, keeping that edge as clean as possible. You can cut it if you want. And then I'm just going to fit it over here. I've decided, since the page is white, to go ahead and use the back so that you don't see all of that design through. I'm going to take a pen or a pencil, whichever one, and trim it out. We're going to cut that excess off. Be sure that you use the back of it because you don't want to see any ink on the front of your picture. I'm going to use a trusty old glue stick and just give a nice even coat of that glue stick all over the back. You can see I've got a very nice coverage there. Done it this way so I don't have to put any on that paper. You can use the Jot glue stick that you get at Dollar Tree if you'd like. I use it often. This is just the one I had on hand nearby. Okay, so I've got it centered, and I'm just going to press it out, make sure there's no bubbles or wrinkles. And then using my wooden ruler, I'm just rubbing it across there to make sure that everything is nicely stuck down to that sign in the back. The hole in the top where it hangs, you could just take a paint pen or a chalk pen or chalk marker and just fill that in if you'd like. And I did have to do that more than one time because that particular pen I used was not very good. Using my sanding foam block from Dollar Tree, I'm going around my edges to give it a nice finished look. It's not a very long process, and it is a very satisfying process. I've slowed it down a little bit so you can see what happens here. It just shears it right off the edge. And then the sign, if you have the glue all the way over to the edges, the sign is going to look like it was made this way. You'll never know that it was a DIY. Just very nicely comes right off. You certainly don't have to do this step if you don't want to, but just be sure that you've glued your edges down so that it won't peel up if you choose not to do it. And the good thing about a glue stick is you don't have to wait for anything to dry. All right, two options for bows here. This is the one I started with. Rather than editing it out, I thought you might like to see what your options could be. So I've got 3 different ones here. I've got the bow maker tool that I made. I'll link that video for you. And then I'm just going to measure out my tails, and they are about 8 inches long. And begin making some loops. You loop the fabric over or the ribbon over, and you just pull it down in between the two dowels. If you have a bow maker, if you've purchased a bow maker, then you're probably already familiar with how to make I'm just going to call it a rather simple bow. We're going to do 3 stacks of 2 loop bows. Well, I guess it would be 1 stack with 3 2-loop bows. There we go. So I'm just showing you this in slow motion in case you haven't used it yet and you're still getting used to how to do it. And I've got a little closer look for you here to choose your next ribbon to go on top. And when you have a ribbon that has 2 sides that are the same, you don't have to flip it in the middle, but you do need to twist it if you have a printed side and a non-printed side. So that's what I've done here. You just pinch it and twist it in the middle so that your pretty side is up. And then trim it off. And then we're going to do the same thing for that checkered ribbon. Each one of these bows is a little bit smaller going toward the top. So there's a 5-inch bow, a 4-inch bow, and a 3-inch bow. The 3-inch bow is on the top and the 5 is on the bottom. Grab it in the middle, pull it off, and then get your pipe cleaner or your chenille stem, your wire, whatever you want to use, and you're going to twist it while you hold it tightly in the center. You want to twist it tightly so you can fluff your bow out. So when I did this, I decided that it was a little too much for what I wanted on this simple sign. So I've decided to take it apart and do something that's a little more simple. So if you don't have a bow maker, here's an option. I saw this bow on Olivia's Romantic Home, and she calls it the Olivia bow. I've just made this bow, I folded it over on itself. You don't have to twist anything, so that there will be 2 loops on either side. Then you fold it, get your center, and make tiny cuts in the outside. I'm just pretty much going through the wire in just a tiny bit of that fabric. Then I'm gonna twist it up with this wire until I can get the next layer ready. I'm going to do the same thing with this. These are wired ribbons. Flip this over, and then one more time. There's 2 here and 2 here. So I'm going to find the center and put that loose end on the outside. I don't know that it makes a difference, but I put it there. And then notch the sides again. So now we're going to stack these 2 together. Press the wire right into the little notches, and then you want to twist it tightly in the back, and then start to pull your bows and twist. Pull and twist. Just pulling that little tail out there too. Pull and twist. I loved making this bow, and I will definitely be making more like this. So if you're a fan of Olivia's, go over to Olivia's Romantic Home and she'll show you how to make all kinds of cool things. Okay, that little tail was just a little bit too short, so I just snipped it straight across to kind of hide it. And then it's kind of raggedy on the end here, so I'm going to make a little dovetail. And always, of course, finishing off the ribbon tails with the dovetail or slant, just as long as you don't have a frayed edge there. I want to put this in the corner. Now I have to make some tails. I'm going to do that with both of these. I'm just pretty much folding it in half and then pressing it to the side, pulling it to the side just a little bit, dovetailing it. So you can see how those are made. pretty easy. You want to put them together with a little bit of hot glue. I put the checkered part on top since the checker's on the top of the other bow, but it doesn't really matter. It's just my preference. And I'm going to attach that and kind of make a little run through of how I want things to be on the back there. And take some hot glue, put it up in the corner so that it is not obstructing my good tidings sign. Give it just a second to sit up before you start pulling on it. Then you're going to add some glue and start placing down the picks or the cones or whatever type of greenery you have that you want to put there. You can get these little pine cones at Dollar Tree in a bag. I think they are in the floral section, but they may be with the Christmas stuff. It probably just depends on your store. The polka dot ribbon came from Dollar Tree. The plaid ribbon came from the thrift store. The two little picks that are on the sides came from the Target Bullseye Playground last year, but I actually got them at Dirt Cheap. And fluff that bow. Okay, so I wanted to put a little something extra here in the top, and I'm adding one more of those little picks there. Now we got to make our hanger, so I'm just cutting a piece of jute, and I'm going to glue it into the original holes in the back with a little piece of scrap ribbon to hold that in place. I'm going to start off by repurposing this little Halloween sign because this is going to be the base of our gingerbread house. Just peel that off, and there's a little felt that is left over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. I got this little sign at Dirt Cheap, and it originally came from Target. It's going to need a little bit of work before it's ready for our gingerbread house, which is neutral. So I'm going to use this black furniture marker that came in a 3-pack from Dollar Tree, of course. I do recommend that you use shorter strokes instead of the long strokes so that you don't have any streaking. So this worked a little bit better than these long strokes. Still had some streaking in there. You're going to let that dry. It's pretty quick drying. And then you can add another coat to that and another if you need it. But this purple was pretty vibrant, so I wanted to be sure that I got it all covered up. And it's okay if you get a little bit on the house itself when you're painting or when you're brushing this on, because it's going to be covered up by the paper that we're going to put down in just a moment. And you actually can make this a 2-sided sign if you would like. Give yourself 2 opportunities to get it exactly how you like it. Alright, then we're going to take the craft paper that comes from the Dollar Tree. Sometimes you can find this by the shipping material. And then it could also be with wrapping paper. You can place it down and just trace it out. When in doubt, when you're cutting these things out, when they're papers, because you can sand them off, it's okay to leave them a little bit bigger or to cut them outside of the line. You don't want to cut them too small so that you have the underneath part or the base of your house showing. You want to be sure that you have enough to cover it and give it a smooth finish, because you want this to look as close to, as perfect as you can get it. There's nothing worse than finishing a project and looking back at it and thinking, oh my gosh, I should have done this, that, or the other. And then it's too late. So, I'm going to run out of glue here and switch over to my Dollar Tree Jot glue stick. Be sure you get close to the edges so that holds your paper down, especially when you're sanding. I use my wooden ruler to get this nice and straight and flat. And see the little wrinkle there? That's easy to fix. And just gently push that with that wooden ruler, push it straight out. I've never tried the plastic ruler or the metal ruler for this, so I don't know, it may be just as good, but you know, when you find something that works, you tend to stick to it, so that's what I did. I've got my sanding foam block that came from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going around the edges. Sorry that I'm out of the frame there. There you go. So you're going to go down and away from the project, and it's going to take the edges off there. Also, if you've gone around the entire project and colored because you want to color the bottom with the pen and you want to go around all the edging. When you sand, some of that may come off. That's okay. Just go back over it with your marker, being careful not to get that back onto your paper, which is also a benefit of using the pen rather than using a brush because it's so much easier to control. You can use the metallic pen from Dollar Tree that's white. You can use chalk writers, you can use chalk pens or acrylic markers. And I do happen to have a new package of acrylic markers that my husband bought for me from Amazon. I'm very pleased with them. I wanted to try them, so it was a perfect project. You can, for the shingles on the roof, you can use a curved surface like a popsicle stick or a craft stick, the end of the metal ruler from Dollar Tree. For me, I'm just going to freehand it. And I'm just making curves, almost like waves that you draw when you're a child. The little waves that you draw for water in the ocean, that's what you're going to draw right here. And the peak of each one, or the high point of each one, is going to hit the center of each one above it. That's just how I did mine, but you can do yours any way that you like. Those little dots that I've drawn don't really have any particular purpose. They're just little embellishments, just like the little dots that are on here. If you look on Pinterest or any other, if you Google how to make a gingerbread house, you're going to see a variety of ways that you can do it. I like the curves and I like the dots. So that's what I'm using, but you don't have to do it that way. This is just not to tell you exactly what you need to do. This is to give you a guide and show you what I'm doing, because this is the first time that I have done a gingerbread house. And, you know, I'm sure as I do more of them, I'll venture out and do something a little more maybe complicated or challenging. But right now I'm going to do, you know, as my first time, I want to be sure that I do the best that I can do, but something that I can be proud of when I'm done. Okay, so you can use an ink stamper, you can use a little box, a square, any type of guide that you want to make your little windows if you want them to be somewhat symmetrical. And so that's what I've done here. And they are not centered on the house, but the house is also not symmetrical, and that's okay. Alright, so I am just going to follow roughly my pencil lines to make some windows. So now I have a door and windows and the roof on my house. Putting some more dots here, and to try to space them more evenly, I'm doing the corners, the center, and then splitting the difference. It helps give me a guide too. If I decide I want to put shutters or anything else on there, I've got a little somewhat of a guide. So you'll see me pausing quite a bit because I'm trying to decide what I want to do before I actually do it. And I did not use any type of pencil to do the little embellishments. So I'm just trying to do this slowly and go over this slowly. You can use any type of design that you like. These little arches almost look like a mustache, don't they? Okay, so just like piping on a gingerbread cookie, I'm making some little layers here. They don't have to make sense. This is all whimsy. This is whimsical. This is make-believe, pretend, childlike, you know. It's playful. You're supposed to see it and go, oh, how cute. Not, oh, wow, those windows are not even. No, that's not what we do. Not with a gingerbread house. You could certainly do this with your children, with your grandchildren. You could just maybe use the scissors and cut things out for them and then give them the chalk writers or the chalk markers and just let them go crazy. They can use markers and glitter and sequins, and you can get all those things at Dollar Tree, so you're not spending a lot of money. It's still affordable, and you're making that memory that, oh, you just can't replace it. My little girl is crafty. She loves to craft along with me. And this is just, she wasn't there the day that I did this to participate, but I know when she sees it, she's going to want to do one too. And I'm sure my little nephews would probably love doing this as well. You could even use little theme stickers if they like Paw Patrol, or if they like superheroes, or strawberry shortcake, or Peppa Pig. If you can find the little stickers, you can always use them. Do whatever you want to on this. You don't have to use white. You can use different colors. Make it really cheery and bright and colorful. So I feel like I want my lines a little bit thicker. I'm just going to go back over them. You can do that. You don't have to do that. I could have just started off with the thicker tip marker and probably would have been just absolutely fine doing it that way and saved a little bit of time. But honestly, this is a good way. If you're going to call something a time waster, this is a good way to do it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I used to doodle and draw when I was younger, and even on up into high school and part of my adulthood. There's just something that goes along with being an adult, and you start seeing the reality of the world, and you start being responsible, quote unquote. And a lot of the things that bring us joy as a child, we just let go of that. And I think Christmas time and just crafting in general is the perfect time for us to try to recapture a little of that joy. So I really encourage you to do this. You don't have to be somebody who prides themselves on the way that they draw. You can see here, this is circles, semicircles, dots, squares. There is nothing special that I'm doing here. You can definitely do this. Google it, go to Pinterest, look on Instagram, watch other videos of YouTubers who do gingerbread themed crafts, and just try it. It's so easy to do. And you know, if you make what you might call a mistake or an error, just add you another layer of paper on top of this and start over. If you're staying at home a lot with this pandemic, this is the perfect time for you to be doing this, practicing your skills. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have subscribed to my channel. I'm at almost 170, and I have been doing YouTube videos on this channel since, I believe, August. So I'm very happy with that. And the best way to show that you appreciate what you see on this channel and what we're doing on this channel is to subscribe. It shows your support. And when you give a thumbs up or you like my videos, it shows YouTube that what I'm doing is worthy of time, you know, of your time, that you thought it was interesting enough to stop and hang out with me for a little while. So I appreciate every like, every comment, the thumbs up. It really means a lot to me. So welcome if you're new. I have another one of these gingerbread houses coming up really soon with the same forms. So we're going to be working with the smaller tinsel covered piece of decor candy cane. This is not the actual metal frame that you can get, but there is a metal one too that's larger than this. You could do it the same way, pretty much, as far as wrapping and such. But we're going to use the smaller one today. I'm going to try to keep this tinsel intact as much as I can, because I can use this again on another project, or since my children like to craft, I can give them all the little bits and pieces to do their own crafts. So we'll really be stretching the dollar there. Just going to cut one piece in the white and one piece in the red and start unwinding. They're wrapped around these little nubs that stick out. Don't worry about those. We're going to got a solution for that shortly as well, because we are not going to be using the same winding method with our ribbon. So there we go, lots of sturdy tinsel. I'm going to take my bullnose pliers and just start cutting off these little pieces. Now the reason to remove these is that I'm going to be using sheer ribbon on one option, and then I'm going to be using a yarn on the other option, and I don't want it to snag anywhere and poke holes in there. So we want to have a smooth surface. We're going to start with this red and silver cane, and I'm going to take this wired ribbon and wrap around, starting by just tucking it into the bottom, and then start wrapping it around the outside of the candy cane all the way up and around. There is going to be a spot on the bottom of the candy cane and on the top back side that need to be patched, but I'm going to show you how to fix that where it looks fairly seamless. Definitely not perfect, but you know, it would be okay if you wanted to use it on a glass door, for instance. It would be neat enough on the back that it wouldn't be a problem, I think. This ribbon option was much easier than the yarn that I'll show you in just a minute. So I guess you could say that this will be more of a, I wouldn't necessarily say traditional, but maybe modern option. And then we'll do a rustic or farmhouse option in just a moment. So be sure that you hang out with me a little bit longer and I'll show you. All right, I'm going to use a little hot glue. Careful, careful. This is sheer and it is very thin. You will burn yourself if you are not very, very careful. So I'm just using my scissors to help me hold it because I've dropped my spatula on the floor somewhere. Alright, so we want to neaten up the end and cover up where we tucked it in. I'm just going to use a tad of glue there, and then I'm going to make a little patch for it. You certainly can skip this part if you're not going to be putting it where the back side will be seen, and obviously if you're not going to be selling it, then it doesn't matter. If you use it in your own home, it doesn't bother you, it's fine the way it was. But see, this option makes it a little bit neater. Then we're going to work on the top. Same process here. You just want to try to cut a piece that will cover that spot and just neatly tack it down with the glue. To close it off, and that makes it a little bit better. So there we go. I'm going to show you a couple of options here. First one is the original bow and snowflake from the original ornament, or you can make your own. This bow that I'm going to show you is called the funky bow. You're going to cut 12-inch strips, 3 of each of these colors, and this ribbon came from the wedding section of the Dollar Tree. Be sure you look all around the store when you're looking for your ribbon and your tools and things like that, because they could be in a variety of places. There's not as much on these rolls, maybe 3 yards, on these rolls, so not as good of a value for your dollar, but you know, still nice, still a good value, I think, for a dollar. So we're going to take these and stack them together. You can stack them randomly. You can stack them like I did with the white together and the silver. It really doesn't matter. You're going to pinch them right in the middle and wrap a piece of floral wire around it. Then you're going to fluff out the ears or the top pieces. That's going to be the top of your bow. Always use the wired ribbon if you want it to stand out in these bigger bows. And then you're going to start pulling the tails that were on the bottom up on the sides. To me, this bow kind of looks like a flower. So you had a bunch of petals on the top and the little leaves spread out around it on the top. And you just pull it out and around to get it the shape that you like. Same thing with the top. And then you can start making some dovetails in your ribbon if you like, or whichever way you want to do it. You can hot glue this down or you can wire it down. But for me, since I'm going to show you another option with this same candy cane, just giving you an idea. Okay, this one's a little more complicated, takes a little more time. First off, you're going to need to tie a knot, and then you're going to wrap it toward the underside where it's concave. Then you're going to take the rest of that and wrap it, weave it through the bottom because you want to cover up your red frame. You can certainly take this outside, spray paint it if you want to so that nothing shows. But I'm going to show you what to do if you don't have spray paint, because a lot of people don't have spray paint. You don't have to use this thick yarn that I have. This came from Goodwill and it had no label on it, so I'm not sure where it originally came from. You can either get thick ribbon or you can use Dollar Tree options like the cotton rope or some of the, I don't know if it's a burlap rope or jute rope, something like that. They do have some options and you can use that. Even if you wanted to be really wacky and whimsical about it, you could use some of the clothesline rope, which comes in a variety of colors, and it's nylon, and you can use that. But I've got the end finished there, and I'm going to start wrapping my yarn around it. Keep those rows close together as you can, and then use a little bit of hot glue to tack them together. You just press them down. Give them just a second for the glue to set up. And then anytime you see a little bit of space, just go ahead and put you another dot of glue. It doesn't take a lot. Just little dots here and there. And then continue to wind it around the cane. And you're going to do that until you get to the top of that straight piece. So I'll wrap a little bit and then push the rows together. And that's when you want to add your glue in between. You could probably do maybe a nautical candy cane option if you like that, the beachy look at Christmas time. That would be cute too, but this makes a good, I think, farmhouse or rustic look. Country, some people have like a country theme. You're going to need a little more glue around the curves. I don't want to get it too bulky in the center here, so I'm going to cut it off, add a little hot glue, and put the clip on the back to let it sit up for a moment while I work on the end of the candy cane. So we're going to do this end the same way we did the other one. I'm going to tie a knot, put it toward the inside, and then start wrapping the bottom. Get that close together so you don't have any gaps where the red frame is going to show. And maybe it wouldn't bother you, you know, if it's showing, but it would drive me nuts. I know myself well enough. And then you're going to stuff it on the inside, put a little bit of glue on there, whatever you need to do to make it stay. Now I'm adding my yarn rope back on there, and I'm going to do the same thing as before. Gonna glue it down to the bottom, the first row, and then start the winding again. If I knew ahead of time all the ingredients you would need for what we're making on these crafts, I would definitely post that ahead of time for you. But most of the time, I don't get my ideas that way. I'll have some inspiration, I'll get an idea, and then I don't really know what I'm going to be using completely until I am doing it. So I don't make a good list in the beginning. And I do apologize for that if your mind works that way and I'm not helping you with that. Okay, here we go. We're wrapping back and forth now to get around the center. It's going to get a little bit bulky there in the center, but that's where we're going to put our bow, so that really won't matter. See there how it's got kind of a thicker spot in the center? There's a little gap in there where we will tie our bow. I wanted to use this really pretty Dollar General ribbon. It is wired, I believe it's a 2-inch ribbon, and it's got the red truck on it. I'm going to make a loop of this. This is, I think, about a 10-inch loop. It's a 10-inch piece of ribbon. It's going to be smaller than that once you glue it. You're just going to make a loop, and while you're letting that dry, you're going to take another piece of ribbon that's going to be the tails. And I saw Caitlin from Crafts by Caitlin do a bow similar to this, and it's so simple. I'm going to use a piece of jute in the center and tie it off. And so honestly, there's no way to really even explain to you how to do this bow because you just saw me do it. It was that easy. I'm going to make sure that my bow, that the knot is in the center, and I'm going to make a double knot. Then I'm going to dovetail the ends. And I'm going to string one piece of that jute through the middle and then tie it down. And that's simple. Simple enough, right? Okay. You can trim off your pieces of jute there and fluff the bow. We're going to add one more thing on here. Some of these bells. I got these from Dirt Cheap, and I have no idea where they originally came from. You can get these anywhere pretty much in the Christmas sections. These look like they're tarnished and old, so I really like that about them. I think it gives a good rustic look. I'm just doing double knots and a touch of glue there so they don't slip out. Then I'm going to wrap it around the center of the bow and let them hang down. And that is that. Now, if you want a hanger, you can use a piece of this stem, make your loop, close the end, a little hot glue, a little paper band-aid there, and you are good to go. I have got some floral and greenery picks here. These came from, the first one's from the Dollar Tree from spring, and these are some that are thrifted. These little Velcro squares, you can get them at the Dollar Tree. Some thrifted black and white ribbon, and some Dollar Tree ribbon. Those are both wired. This sign came in a 2-pack from Target originally, and I got it from dirt cheap. And then this came from Big Lots. It was a fall sign. I colored one side a kind of a tan color, and the other side is chalkboard paint. So we're going to use this side today. We're going to remove the hanger off the back. Those come off pretty easy. And position the sign down on the board. Now, because I know I want a bow on the top, I'm going to need a little extra room up there for the size of the bow. Be sure when you get out your Velcro that you have one stiff side and one soft side, so they'll stick together. These are peel and stick or have a sticky background, but I went ahead and added a little bit of Gorilla hot glue on there also. By using the Velcro, we have the option of changing the bow out. Now I'm going to use some hot glue to put the sign down. If you want yours to be interchangeable, you can always use Velcro on this as well because they're not very heavy, and then you could change your sign out. But I think I'm going to keep mine just like this.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Now we're going to focus on the bow. I'm going to be taking 2 strips of this black and white ribbon. Probably came from Michael's or somewhere. It's a good quality, but I did get it from Goodwill. And I'm going to trim this off where one is 2 inches longer than the other ones. So I'm going to protect my fingers and put on some hot glue. And I'm just forming a loop here. I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and I will work on the next loop. Same thing here. A little bit of glue. Press it together and just let it do its thing. Now I'm going to layer the bow, and this is why you need the different sizes. It's stacked and you can see both layers. This final bow is going to be this burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree. We're going to do the same thing with this, and it is of course going to be a couple of inches smaller than the other. Just loops. Such an easy bow to make. So now we're going to stack up those rings. The glue is cooled and they're all ready. We're going to stack them up. My first attempt, I was having a little trouble getting it all in my hand, but if at first you don't succeed, right? Try again. So here we go. I have it all in there now. I'm going to grab a zip tie. You can use white or black or any color that you have. It won't matter because it's going to be covered. I'm not going to tighten it all the way quite yet. I'm going to fold the bow and make sure that it's in the center, and since it was not tightened all the way, I could slip it down a little bit and get it in the center. Now we can tighten it up. Clip off the extra. It's a simple enough way to make a very pretty bow. So you can make a loop and glue that in the center if you want. You can leave it wide if you want, but I decided that I wanted mine to be a little more opaque and thinner. So folding it in half gave me that look. Gonna wrap it a little bit and put some hot glue on there. When you're doing this, it would probably be best for you to push that zip tie closure to the bottom of the bow where the tails are going to be, because if you don't, it's going to make it a little bit bulky. And I did not slip mine all the way down, and yeah, hindsight, but it turned out fine. But I think it would be better if it would lay flatter, you know, the other way. Now we're going to make tails for the bow. And I'm making about 6" on each side, so that's a 12" piece. Just kind of fold it over on itself with both of the printed sides showing, and then just with a scrap of jute, I'm going to tie this in a double knot. I was clearly distracted when I was doing this because my fingers forgot what I was doing. I mean, look at that. That's ridiculous. But yeah, finally. Oh, and there we go. There we go. Now we have a knot. So you're going to trim off the extra. And that's how it's going to look. Now we have to put our polka dot piece on. So we're going to do another tail. It's going to be 10 inches because you want it to be a little bit shorter than what we used on the bottom. And because this is a stiffer ribbon, I didn't have to tie it. It will fold down and lay flat on its own without being held. Little hot glue and just attach those together. Same thing here. A little bit of hot glue and attach it. I went ahead and clipped mine together so it won't come undone while I am trying to do the ends of my ribbon. So to give it a more finished look, dovetails are the thing, and it's easy to do. So cutting from the outside inward and upward to get those pretty little V's. And for safety reasons, be sure that you cut away from yourself and not toward your hand. It's because I love you that I tell you these things. All right. So that looks pretty good so far. I think that'll do. Now it's time to put the other side of that Velcro down. So I'm just going to use the glue again, just a little, and press it down. You want to try to get that on a flat surface, because the more coverage, the more contact with the surface that you're putting it on, the better it's going to hold. Then once it is dry, you can go ahead and attach it to the top of the board. Look how pretty! You could actually leave that exactly like it is if you wanted. But you know me and my rustic love for all things rustic. I'm going to add some things here. I want to show you what some options are here. So you can use anything that looks snowy or white. If you want to keep this neutral, you know, you want to stick to your creams and whites and greens. But I've decided instead of using those that I want to try something different. I'm going to take my 2 pieces of greenery and bind them together with the floral wire. Make sure you twist these where the snowy part, if you have snowy or frosted pieces, that you have that side upward, that you have the correct side upward. So that's why you see me messing around with it so much. Got it. Trying to get it exactly how I want it. And they're wired, but they also have like a plastic on them, and so they slip around a little bit sometimes. So this was in a pack of, I think, Christmas tree ornaments that I got from Dirt Cheap many years ago. It was a bag of them. And I know I want to use that with this. It matches well with the wood trim. So I'm just cutting off all the little extra pieces there. And then I thought, hey, just to lighten that up a little bit, this berry vine that I got from Dollar Tree would work pretty well, I think. And so actually when I opened it up, I was surprised to see it's in 2 pieces. But I like it being a little thicker. So I am going to take this and wrap it all the way around. Be sure when you wrap it that you have an equal amount going around the wreath, and then clip off your excess. And I think that'll do it. So I apologize for this being a little bit blurry. It's a little out of focus here, but I wanted to show you how I just poked the floral wire through the wreath so that I could attach it down onto the greenery. Sometimes when you use hot glue on stuff like this, it doesn't get a good hold and it'll just pop right off. And this is an easy enough solution to make it stay until you want it to come off. And because it's green, you don't notice it at all. You just poke the wires behind it and you don't even notice it. So I'm going to put it on the bottom. I thought the snowflake would be cute in the middle. Since it says let's stay home, the snowflake seemed appropriate.